Turning now to Washington, where President Trump will deliver the first State of the Union address of his second term tonight. The president last outlined his agenda before a joint session of Congress about a year ago, but this speech was not officially considered a State of the Union. In beginning his remarks, he proclaimed, quote, "America is back."
I return to this chamber tonight to report that America's momentum is back, our spirit is back, our pride is back, our confidence is back, and the American dream is surging bigger and better than ever before.
And CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cortez and CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns both here to preview tonight's address. So let's start at the White House. Nancy, what are we now learning about the parents of a National Guard member who was killed in Washington, D.C., who will now attend tonight's State of the Union? What can you tell us about that?
Chanel, I can tell you that they will be seated in a place of honor tonight there at the invitation of the President of the United States. These are the parents of Sarah Beckstrom, who, if you recall, was a National Guard member, only 20 years old, who was killed as she was patrolling the streets of Washington, D.C. just one day before Thanksgiving. The suspect in that case was an Afghan national. President Trump went on to argue that his presence here in the United States was the result of lax vetting by the Biden administration, despite some pushback from his own Department of Justice on that. But nevertheless, it is a sign that the president not only wants to honor her service, but also wants to make a wider point about people who he believes are in this country either illegally or who never should have been admitted in the first place.
And so, Nancy, how are we expecting the president to defend his policies on key issues, including immigration and the economy tonight? Specifically, do we expect, with the members of the Associate and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court sitting right there front and center, that the president will attack them, even if it's in an offhand remark, which he often does when he goes off script, because he is angry at their ruling that his tariff policy was illegal?
Yeah, it's hard to see him avoiding that opportunity to make some kind of comment while they're sitting right there in front of him, right, Vlad? There are still a lot of things we don't know, however. We don't know if all the members of the Supreme Court are actually going to attend. We don't know how much he wants to get into his changing tariff policy in the wake of the setback that was dealt by the Supreme Court the other day. And we don't know whether the Supreme Court members, these justices, will react in any way. You'll recall on Friday he said that they're barely invited. Not exactly clear what that means, especially because it's generally not the president's job to invite or not invite officials in Washington, D.C. But certainly they got the message that they're not all that welcome by him this year. So I think that'll be one of the central dramas tonight.
All right, Nancy, thank you very much. As always, my friend,
You're
will be
welcome.
Watching. Let's go to CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns, who joins us now to preview the address from the perspective of the House of Representatives and the Senate. So, Caitlin, you were recently in North Carolina to gauge how ordinary Americans are feeling ahead of tonight's State of the Union. What'd you hear?
Yeah, Vlad, well, the president is going to give his vision and version of events happening in the country and what he hopes will happen in the coming year. But we wanted to find out from voters about how they are assessing the current State of the Union. And Vlad, I was specifically interested in Trump's own supporters to see if they were getting what they voted for, and especially in light of what happened in Minnesota. I've reported on the Trump campaign for a while, as you know, and we saw immigration was center stage. There was wide support for mass deportations, but I was curious about the implementation of the policy and how Trump's own voters were assessing it. And in North Carolina, in a conservative area that I went to outside Charlotte, lots of Trump supporters that we talked to told us that they believe that ICE has gone too far, and they have some concerns about how the administration is implementing the policy. Take a listen to a couple of them.
I was all for the administration policy and then ICE, but then whenever I saw the episode happen in Minnesota, it totally changed my perspective on how they came killed an innocent woman. People are scared. Innocent people are scared, and they shouldn't be. If they're innocent and they're citizens, it's harassment to me.
Anytime you get to the enforcement part of the law, it can get ugly.
If you were to give the president a grade, what would you give him?
I would give him a B+ to A to an A. As far as his policies, I don't have a problem with them. To me, they seem to be working. I mean, we needed a change.
Now that man that you heard from also told me that he would like the president to stop the personal attacks and just focus on policy. But by and large, the impression that I got from voters who supported Trump and who continues to support him told me that they do believe that they feel better off than they did before, but there is lots of room for improvement. A lot of voters told us that they want to keep the focus on the economy, that there's still more work to do to bring prices down, for example. There was also some concern about kind of what we are going to do in terms of foreign policy and the broader implications of potential war. And so you're having supporters of the president maintaining their support of him, but identifying ways that they want to see some changes going forward.
And Caitlin, we know Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger will be delivering the Democratic response. So talk about what we anticipate in terms of the approach or the strategy there.
Yeah, that's right. She was just elected governor last November, the first woman to be elected to governor in the state of Virginia. And, you know, Democrats are doing some soul searching of their own, too. They are preparing for a midterm election and also potentially a presidential election in a couple of years, where they are trying to figure out what their party stands for and who their leaders are and then what they want to be. And so this is going to be one kind of roadmap that Democrats are looking at. Back in that election in November, Spanberger was very focused on economic issues and pressing against the administration on promises that they had made to bring costs down. So we'll see if she sticks to that kind of script, focusing on issues that voters in 2024 said were the top concerns. And this comes as we're heading into primary season, guys. We have a big primary in Texas next week, for example, on the Democratic side and the Republican side. But this comes as Democrats are trying to figure out their path forward. Spanberger will offer her roadmap.
All right, Caitlin Huey-Burns reporting from the Hill for us. Caitlin, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, folks, stay with CBS News for live coverage of the president's State of the Union address and the Democratic response tonight. CBS News 24/7, as you covered with our special takeout at 5 p.m. and our pre-show at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then CBS Evening News anchor Tony DeCopa will lead our coverage from Washington, D.C. starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. Then afterwards, you can stream the Free Press's post-State of the Union show.